right, we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to the October meeting for the Kansas City Coalition for Digital Inclusion. We'll probably have a few more people join us, but with respect to everyone's time, I want to go ahead and get the ball rolling here. We are missing several people today because there's a big conference going on in Washington, D.C. I know Tom Esselman is here, but Aaron Deacon and Carrie Coogan, they're all over there at the SHLB Conference. And Tom, I'd definitely like to hear from you a little bit after we get through the first introductions. Let us know how it's going over there.
Will do.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started. If this is your first time here, welcome. We are the Kansas City Coalition for Digital Inclusion. Our vision, of course, is that every citizen and household in our metropolitan area has access to the internet, the equipment and connectivity needed to use it, and the skills needed to take advantage and, really get the most out of what technology can bring into our lives. And really, it's more and more required, honestly, these days. Our mission, of course, is to facilitate collaboration among organizations, such as everyone here, and initiatives working to bridge the digital divide in order to maximize the resources for the greatest impact. We have one more slide. I don't know if it didn't show up. There are several ways to connect with us. We do maintain a website. I do have a very exciting announcement, though. We are overhauling and reconstructing our website. It hasn't really gotten a lot of attention since the pandemic years, so we have a lot of updating to do, and you can look for that in the next couple of months, and we'll announce that when it's ready. We're hoping to have, an interactive calendar so that we can all add our events, and then even like a news feed so that we can, make sure that we're staying on top of everything, both on a national and local level. So of course I will announce that when it's ready. And then we do have an X, formerly Twitter account, and all of our meetings are recorded, and you can find all of those on our YouTube channel. And we do maintain a Facebook page as well. And those are the only slides we have. So let me pull up our agenda here. Oops. I actually reached out to our broadband offices and I don't see them here today. So I don't think they have any updates for us. So we can skip right on over that part. Is anyone here for the first time today? Anyone joining us for the first time? I know our panelists, you'll certainly have the opportunity to introduce yourselves here shortly. But anyone else? Gus? Would you mind introducing yourselves and telling us which organization you're with?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm an AmeriCorps member. I'm with the ACC specifically, and my host site is KCCDI.
Oh, wonderful. Well, welcome. Thank you for being.
Great to meet you too.
Yeah.
I'm Sarah Craig. I'm the Director of Sponsored Programs and Research Integrity at the University of Central Missouri.
Wonderful. Welcome, Sarah. Anyone else new for the first time today?
I'll go ahead and introduce her. This is Terry with Essential Families, and we have on the call Makia Johnson. She is our new community engagement director here at Essential Families.
Wonderful. Welcome, Makia, and congratulations on the new position. That's exciting to hear that you're growing.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Well, before we go ahead and dive into our panel discussion, I'd like to hear from Tom Esselman. I know Tom and Carrie did a presentation, and we even have our one of our directors here at the Kansas City Public Library, Cindy Hole, who actually happens to be the president of the American Library Association now, did a presentation as well, or is about to do a presentation. I'm not sure. So Tom, would you mind chiming in and providing a little bit of an insight into what's going on over at SHLB?
Sure. Thanks, Wendy. And hi, everybody. Yes, I am representing our beloved Kansas City Royals up here in DC area. I have to tell you, I've encountered a few Baltimore Orioles fans as I walk through the streets and the halls, and they have not given me pleasant looks as I walk past them, but I smiled and said hi to them just the same. All that being said, I think the city of Kansas City is well represented at the National SHLB Conference. That's the Schools, Healthcare, Libraries, Broadband Coalition. You mentioned Aaron Deacon and Leslie Scott from KC Digital Drive. They've been here. Carrie Coogan and Cindy Hull from the Kansas City Public Library. And Cindy Hull is also the president of the American Library Association. And she did a keynote address yesterday morning, which was really, really powerful. And Carrie and I got a chance to present on Wednesday in a session called Anchors Rock, which focuses on the power and the need for community anchor institutions like libraries and healthcare organizations and schools and lots of community-centered organizations, workforce development agencies, neighborhood associations, churches, as a way to make sure that there's sustainability to digital inclusion programs now that national awareness and funding is available to help support the work that we're doing. I just wanted to make one highlight report about the panel discussion that included both Angie T. Bennett from the NTIA and Angela Seifer from the NDIA, talking about their experience both with the recently submitted NTIA competitive grants, which were a national level, nationally competitive, and then how that leads into what we're currently in the process of being opened up, which is the state level capacity grants. And I think the most compelling statements I heard from Angie Bennett was that the federal government has really, really taken a thorough approach to helping make sure we understand across the country that this is not meant to be what she's called transactional. It's not just about getting a bunch of money out so we can see how many computers we can get out and how many people we get connected to the internet. It's really about shifting the whole entire way our country thinks about the internet and access to the internet, and how it is no longer a luxury item. It's now being viewed by our federal government as a necessity. There's a lot of challenges that come with that because the economics surrounding the internet are still kind of based on it being more of a luxury item, which is ridiculous. But it put into context why the work that we're all doing and the need for us to keep gathering and keep sharing information and continue to push the things that we're doing, why that's so important. I'm thrilled that we've got some regional library partners on today's call, because I will say, and again, with having Cindy Hull as one of the keynotes, there's been a huge spotlight on the importance of libraries and the need for libraries to get more resources for training their own staff and for making partnerships with local community organizations something that's easier to do, because I don't think there's any type of organization that better embodies digital inclusion than libraries. So we've heard a lot of good things on that front. And as I said, Kansas City has been very well represented. So it's been a thrill for me to be here. I think the last comment I'll make is that there's been a lot of interest expressed in the way the organization I'm now leading, which is called DEPO-KC, it's, for the first time, I'm no longer representing a service providing nonprofit. I'm able to do work completely neutral, completely impartial. And there are a number of states, like the state of Maine, state of Ohio, state of Illinois, that spoke with me directly about wanting to learn more about how we can partner on kind of doing a scorecard, being more transparent about who's getting the funding and how are we doing against serving covered populations, and how are we doing as far as achieving our state's digital equity goals. So going forward, we're working on a kind of a scorecard approach that we're hoping can be applied throughout states throughout the whole country, so we can have a little bit more uniformity to be able to, fulfill our obligation back to our communities, that now that we're getting all this money, how are we using it to really solve the problem in a sustainable way? We've had some really great applications to the competitive grant, and we're looking forward to more great applications for the state capacity grants. So that's what all this national conference the last 3 days have been about. And I'm thrilled to be here, and of course, thrilled to be representing Kansas City.
So I have a quick question, Tom, and sorry, Wendy. What is the name of the conference? This is Terry with Essential Families that you're attending, and because
Sure.
It would be nice, for others to know when these conferences come about, so we could participate as well. That's great that you're there, and Aaron and Casey Digital Drive, but I've never heard of this conference.
Well, it's the organization has been around for about 13 years now. Wow. The Schools and Healthcare Library Broadband Coalition, SHLB, and so it's referred to as SHLB. I've been a member of the organization for a while, and was asked earlier this year to co-chair one of the policy groups called Anchors for Digital Equity. I learned about it by being involved in the NDIA, which is the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, which we regularly refer to in our coalition meetings. And so anyway, it's open to anyone. Individual nonprofits can join. You do have to join as a member, and all that information is on their website, shelby.org. And so, it's open as long as you're a member. It's open to anyone to attend these conferences.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you, Wendy, for putting that in the chat. So thank you. I always like to, I'm a lifelong learner, so I'm always looking for things to participate in. So I
Excellent.
appreciate that.
Excellent.
And
sure.
Wendy, I want to say a comment. And this is to support and endorse what Tom is doing. I handle the data for, as you all know, for Essential Families, and that role that he just described for DEPO-KC is the missing element, right? Again, we get a lot of activity, money, but where I come from, corporate America, we didn't do anything without having key performance indicators, because we were for profit and we had to report that to our shareholders. In other words, if a service was not making money, we cut it out, we stopped. And so Tom, as an independent resource, he can kind of grab that data and not only have the accountability and transparency, but he'll have the justification to keep programs going that are working. And the ones that are not working, thank you, but no thank you. Because again, so Tom, I just want to thank you for setting that organization up. Very timely, sir, very timely.
Well, I appreciate your comments, Ken. And just an extra piece of context, the importance of the work I'm trying to do is centered around bringing more transparency and awareness to the local foundations, because long after this federal money is spent and exhausted, it's the local, both public and private funding organizations that we're all going to be reliant on. And so right now is the time that we just want to be able to make sure they're aware of who's doing what, how the money is being used for the best purposes possible, and to celebrate all the good work that's being done, by everyone that gathers together and is able to do this work, which is really, really solving a very tough problem, and it's not going to be solved overnight. To Ken's point, we will continue to need resources long after these federal grants are exhausted. And so we want to be able to identify, recognize, and celebrate everyone that's doing really good work.
Thank you for those comments and that conversation. Please chime in anytime if you have questions or comments to add to anything we're doing here during the meeting. I went ahead and put in links to the websites for 3 organizations, of course, SHLB, what Tom is talking about, and then the NDIA, National Digital Inclusion Alliance, and then another organization based out of Portland, Oregon called INTEN. All 3 of those organizations have annual conferences that are wonderful, well worth the time and the money. INTEN is an organization near and dear to my heart because that's how I got my start in the digital inclusion landscape. 8 years ago here at the library, I was a digital inclusion fellow, which was, sponsored by Google Fiber and then administered by INTEN. And again, like I said, they are a wonderful organization, small but very mighty, and it's one of the best conferences I've ever been to. I really, really like their conferences. And they are sometime around right after the first of the year, and so is Net Inclusion, which is the annual conference put on by NDIA. They're both in like the first quarter, I believe, March, February-ish. And they move their locations every year. I think NDIA is going to Arizona this coming spring or winter. I think it's a Native American reservation that they're going to, and it looks really, really interesting. So definitely check those out and try to go if you have the capacity, because they're always worth the time. And even the connections that you make while you're there, in my opinion, are just priceless. Any more comments or questions for Tom before we move on to our panel section? All right. So I am very excited, of course, as a library employee at Kansas City Public Library to be facilitating this meeting, which, and I have some of my fellow library employees from the region joining us today. I'm going to see if I can pin everybody to make it more of a panel. Let's see. We have, and then, where are you? There you are. All right, so there's 4 of us representing our region's libraries. I unfortunately was not able to get anyone from Mid-Continent. They actually have a new digital innovations department, which is very exciting, and some new staff making up that department. But unfortunately, they had another obligation today. I don't know if some of you know Brian Gash over there, but he was unable to join us as well. So we just simply, unfortunately, were not able to get anyone from Mid-Continent, which is too bad, because of course they have a huge footprint, service footprint over on the Missouri side. But I am very grateful that we do have the panelists we have with us today. I have never met any of you, I believe. I think maybe Kinsley. I don't remember. I know we've spoken, but I'm going to go ahead and get us kicked off just with introductions. I'd like to go around and have you just, of course, share your name and which library system you're with and what you do at your library, and then a little bit about your service area. And I'll go ahead and go first just to give you an idea. So I'm Wendy Pearson. My title is Strategic Initiatives Manager at the Kansas City Public Library, which is not very descriptive necessarily of the work that I do. I actually I oversee a very small but mighty team that works on all of our digital inclusion initiatives. So we have a program called Tech Access, which is our direct service to patrons. And we also do Excel Online High School, which is an exclusively online high school program where patrons can learn or earn their high school diploma. Of course, I help with the Coalition for Digital Inclusion. And we also do Chromebook lending. We've loaned out Chromebooks to patrons in the community associated with community partner sites. So for example, our biggest partner right now is Literacy Kansas City. We have a Chromebook lending program, and working through partners, we are able to extend the checkout period so that they can participate in the program that's being facilitated by our partners. So those are kind of the four main things that I oversee at our library. And our service area is really the urban core of Kansas City. Our exact footprint is the school district of Kansas City Public Schools. So just to give you a little bit of reference. And everything outside of that, aside of course from North KC, is kind of out in the suburbs area is Mid-Continent. So we work very closely with them on a couple of our programs. So with that, I'd like to move on to our other panelists, and I'm just going to go into order in how you appear on my screen. So Jennifer, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Shea. I am over at the North Kansas City Public Library. I am the assistant director, and I do a little bit of everything. We are a little strange in the fact that we are not attached to Kansas City or Mid-Continent. Wendy, the amount of people that have called to ask to check out a computer from us is high. And so while we are North Kansas City, I think our population is right around 5,000 people, kind of in the heart of in between the Northlands. But we do give cards and serve Jackson, Johnson, Wyandotte, Clay, and Platte. So we serve the whole metro area, but our actual people is about 5,000. So.
I wanted to add to how many branch locations do you have?
Just us, just one.
Okay.
Yep. We are the only standalone, I believe.
Okay. All right. And I forgot to mention, the Kansas City Public Library has 10 physical locations. And then we like to add and say that we have 11 because we count our digital branch, our online resources as kind of a standalone entity because it's so robust. So thank you very much and welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for being here today. Next up is Ashley.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Sellers. I'm the e-content librarian for the Kansas City, Kansas Public Library. I can't tell you how many times we get mixed up with the Kansas City Public Library. I do all the digital content, so I'm the vendor contact for all of our databases. I do all the buying for any of our ebooks, audiobooks, and kind of just in that realm of things. And we serve all of Wyandotte County.
And how many branches are in that system?
We have 5 branches plus our digital branch.
Sure. Okay. Wonderful. All right, thank you. And then Kinsley, last but not least.
Hi, I'm Kinsley Riggs. I'm the Deputy County Librarian for the Johnson County Library System. We are almost all of Johnson County, which is made up of 23 cities, but the Olathe Public Library exists kind of within this surrounding Johnson County Library, and we have a really strong service level agreement with them where we share all of in our collection. So if you live in Johnson County, you can use 16 library locations. 14 of those are Johnson County and 2 are Olathe Public Library. We have a combined population, including Olathe, 600,000. And we are a county library system. So we have a lot of connection to resources that libraries often need through our mental health department, our developmental supports through public health, things like that. We have those departments as county partners, which makes it sometimes a little bit easier to work with them and reach out for partnerships.
Wonderful. Great to learn about your service areas. And I had no idea, for example, North Kansas City, you only have 1 location. You were up there just all by yourselves, and that's wonderful. So we'll just go ahead and dive in and try to have a conversation. And if anybody has any questions along the way, please just, try to raise your hands and we'll, I have Tom, I think, helping me monitor the chat so we don't miss anything. But we'll just go ahead and dive right in. The first question I have for our panelists, I'd really like to hear from each of you, is what is the digital divide to you? And, how does it present itself within your communities? And let's go ahead and start with Kinsley.
So the way I would define the digital divide is really the gap or the divide between those who have technology access and those who don't. And that access could be a device, it could be connectivity to the internet, and definitely the skills and knowing how to use that technology. And I think for us in Johnson County, all of our school districts are one-to-one. We have pretty decent connectivity. In our rural populations is where we see a lack of connectivity in our areas for the most part. And then really what we've seen the most is that digital skills. So teaching people how to be an active digital citizen, because just about anything you can do in life now, you can have an online component to it. And so that's the piece that we see most often in Johnson County.
Yeah. And then what about you, Ashley? What is the digital divide to you, and how does that present itself over in Wyandotte?
I kind of mirror the same way Kinsley does. It's the gap between those who have access and don't have access, as well as connectivity and the digital literacy options. For us, Wyandotte's a really interesting county because depending on where you look at the county, you get two distinct groups of people. The inner core of Kansas City, Kansas has a more lower income, whereas the western part of the county is not as low income. So you can really see the issues in the inner city part of the state of the county more than you can in the other.
Yeah, that's very similar for us. And then Jennifer, how about in North Kansas City?
I think the thing we see the most in our library is the people who they don't know how to use it. They maybe have the iPhone, they just don't know how to get something to work. They're on the computer trying to type up a resume, but they're just not great with like the formatting kind of stuff. That's been the real gap that we see here. I know that, the gap between having it and not having it, or having that internet, but just in our library, that's kind of what we have observed a lot more of.
And then, of course, at Kansas City Public Library, similarly, we have a very diverse patron, population, service population, and depending on which location you're at, the issues are going to be a little bit different. But of course, we deal with the connectivity and, needing computers. People come in exclusively just to use computers a lot of times at many of our locations. And then we even have, thankfully, thanks to some opportunities, have been able to add, hotspot lending and Chromebook lending more recently. But just like all of you, it's really the skills is where we come in and are able to, I think, help the most and have the biggest impact, especially with some of our newer programs that I'll talk about here in a little bit. But it's just, and honestly too, it can be simple things like, forgetting your password and needing help, recovering your password just to get into your email or your bank account portal, or and figuring out how to change settings on your device. Like, so it's and it really depends on where you are and who your population is in that particular community. And Tom, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. I just wanted to add a follow-up question to the panelists, which is, what's your experience with the digital divide within your own library staff? Because that has been an issue here, particularly with these federal grants, that we can't expect libraries to shoulder the burden of helping all these patrons if within the library staff themselves, you have a variety of people who are comfortable on digital stuff versus those library employees who aren't. So I'm curious to know from the panelists, how do you experience the digital divide within your own library staff?
You want to go in the same order? Okay. Yeah, that's a really great question. I think that COVID helped us all raise our digital skills a little bit when we were challenged with finding all the new ways to do things. And so that really definitely amplified those with the skills, brought some people along with us who had a bit to learn. But when we're helping patrons, we always talk about tech confidence over tech competency. And so I think that's what we see most is the people who don't have the confidence in their tech skills, they actually have them. They're using the iPhone. They're filling out their time cards online. Like, but it's that transfer of I know how to do the things I know how to do on my devices and that competence piece they have. It's just being curious because no device is going to be set up the same way, right? So that's the biggest hurdle we have is how do we make people realize, okay, it might not be a 3-dot button, it might be a hamburger button, or it might look like a waffle in the corner, like, but you know those skills for how to navigate things. And so for us, I think it really is, it comes down more to having the confidence to be a little vulnerable with the patron, tell them, I'm not sure, but we're going to help figure it out together.
I think for me, the biggest thing I see is there's so many diversities within the different vendors that we use for databases, entertainment things that all have their own unique twists on them. And sometimes the staff just aren't comfortable in certain ones. So they fumble with how to help a patron in that particular database or entertainment place like Hoopla or Overdrive. That's our biggest thing that I see with our staff.
I have a staff who's actually, they're very willing to ask questions. So while their skill levels can vary a lot from person to person, they're willing to ask. So they'll come find me, they'll come find someone else they know is a little more tech savvy when they get to the things. My staff has also been really great about learning some of those frequently asked questions. So like, yeah, they're not Excel experts, but they're pretty good in Word. Or we have a scanner that's sometimes troublesome, so they know a couple troubleshootings, and if those don't work, they come find me. You know, just learning as you go, and they've been very willing to do that and very willing to ask questions. So, yeah.
Yep, I echo all of those answers, especially when I first started as the digital inclusion fellow. One of my first tasks was to kind of survey, not necessarily literally paper survey our staff, but I went around and kind of visited each of our locations and tried to figure out what the needs are to be able to provide digital literacy training and assistance and troubleshooting services to our patrons. And in that process, learned that you know, two things. One, our staff didn't necessarily always have the time required. You know, at branch staff, they get really busy. It's people constantly coming in and going and all kinds of questions. And so, you know, if somebody comes in and needs help recovering their password, our branch staff may not necessarily have the time required to sit down and, you know, work with their patron to resolve that issue. But then also, in addition to time, it was a skills gap, you know, and even a confidence, like you were saying, Kinsley, not having the confidence really to explore necessarily, you know, the answers. Like and you know, we moved on to providing just kind of drop-in sessions at each of our branches to be able to help patrons with whatever their problems were. And, you know, there were times when I was first starting out where I didn't know the answer. And so sitting there with a patron and Googling the answer in front of them and just trying to kind of walk them through the process and like, hey, I don't know the answer, but let's learn together. And, you know, using the tools at our fingertips to solve those problems in the moment. And then also, like you said, the pandemic really highlighted some of those skills gaps among our staff. And we've since, you know, we're starting to do more kind of proactive training, you know, like we use, for example, Microsoft Office Suite for, you know, SharePoint and Outlook and all of those things. And we moved to cloud storage instead of a physical server here at the library. And that was a huge transition for our staff. And so in response to both the pandemic and the need to be more digitally literate, and then, you know, some of those transitions, you know, our IT department has developed some trainings, I guess I'm saying, and to be able to build up that confidence and competence with, you know, among our staff. So,
well, I appreciate you guys answering my question. I want you to know that here in Washington, D.C., the leaders from the NTIA who are governing all this federal money, they are they're desiring and they're expecting libraries to come forward and seek out resources through not only the competitive grant, which just closed, but all these capacity grants that are coming through your state. For that very reason, as I said, Angela T. Bennett said, this is not transactional. If we're going to shift the way people think about digital equity going forward, libraries will always be relied on by so many populations, and you shouldn't, as a library employee, expect to have a crapshoot on whether you have staff who are capable and comfortable helping people or not. Now's the time to get with your development teams, get with your grant writers, get them requesting resources, and also with your partner IT companies and contract partners. They are right now incentivized to provide more professional development training and skills training to employees of libraries. So don't be shy. This is a monumental window of time that we have with an incredible amount of money the government is offering. And, you know, what you guys just shared is a great reason why you should be standing up. And even if you're just a standalone branch in North Kansas City, you've got resources out there to help make sure that you're well equipped well into the future for these digital skills, you know, training and things that you're always asked to do by your patrons.
Yeah. It is yet another unprecedented time right now that we're in with the funding for the work that we're doing. It's a great opportunity. My next question for our panelists, I'd like to jump into how each of us are providing equitable access to digital resources and connectivity and, you know, training. Like, what does that look like for each of our library systems? I'll go ahead and answer, jump in. I mentioned already our tech access team. I know Megan's on the call. I don't see Andrew, but we're a small team. We have Megan McNaughton and Andrew Lynn, and they are our direct service providers. And we have a pretty cool model, in my opinion, where Andrew is really focused on providing services within our library branches. And we do that. We used to do it pre-pandemic through a volunteer program. We would have volunteers sign up and come in and do drop-in sessions at each location for, you know, a couple of hours each week. And, you know, it's just setting up a table, and, you know, over time, we promote the time and the day. It's the same time, the same day each week. And patrons learned that they could come in during that time and get help. It's just kind of like open office hours. Come in with whatever you need, and we'll do our best to help you. And since the pandemic, we have transitioned into we're calling the digital core, which is supported by an AmeriCorps program, and we're the first to implement and, you know, kind of suggest this model, and it's been so successful. We're actually expanding. So it's exactly the same. You know, we do drop-in sessions, except now with our digital core members, we're able to provide them with a living stipend, so they get paid, and they serve up to, I think it's 19 to 20 hours each week. So that's an increased amount of time that we're able to be at each location and help our patrons. And so that's what we're able to provide within our 10 library locations. And Andrew oversees our our digital core program here at the library. And then Megan, her work is focused on community partner sites. And so she goes out to low-income apartment complexes, community centers. You know, there have been neighborhood associations. So she's kind of our mobile unit. She goes out and teaches classes and offers drop-in sessions at partner sites. And that helps us, you know, reach people who for some reason or another are able to make it into the library physically. We kind of take the show out on the road, and Megan is able to help them where they are. And she does a lot of great work on developing content and curriculum and things like that. You know, we used to use digitallearn.org, which is a free resource, one of our digital resources that we provide. But Megan has done a great job of responding to her patrons and has kind of altered and built up that curriculum so that it's more relevant to the needs of our particular communities. So shout out to Megan, great work that she's doing. And, you know, tech access has grown, and it's just something that, you know, we're really proud of here at the library. So that was me on my soapbox, talking about the program that we have. And then, of course, we also, like I mentioned earlier, do Chromebook lending and hotspot lending. But I'm curious to hear from, you know, everyone else, what kinds of things your library is doing to ensure equitable access and training and things like that at your libraries.
Can I say a word a minute?
Yeah, of course. Go for it.
Yeah, I'd like for everybody to give Megan a hand, because she comes to our neighborhood center every Thursday. I mean, the people here love her, and she's doing a fantastic job.
Thank you for that.
Much congrats. All right.
All right. Ashley, you want to go ahead and go first?
Sure. For the most part, of course, we offer, you know, computers, which seems to be what a lot of our patrons want. Our patrons also tend to be more internet-based, or sorry, entertainment-based. They really want the entertainment. So we try to offer a multitude of databases that they can access, because a lot of our patrons just don't have streaming services. So we try to offer things like Canopy, where they can go to watch movies, or Hoopla for music and movies and what have you. So that's where we do a lot of that. We also have our mobile libraries that go to nursing homes, assisted livings, daycare centers, and they have computers on the mobile libraries that the patrons can come onto the buses and do what they need to do.
That is awesome. That's been kind of my pie in the sky project that I keep proposing to our department and our team here, is to have a mobile unit like that. That would be amazing. I'm so glad to hear that you have that. And Jennifer, what about up in North Kansas City?
We have kind of a weird setup here with our city council. Our city actually pays for the Wi-Fi of their residents. I don't remember all of the logistics. I think they maybe have to pay for like some of the equipment for 7 years or something like that. But then I believe the Wi-Fi is free. Again, I'm not sure if that's indefinite. So our area, again, the like 4 square miles of North Kansas City, has plenty of Wi-Fi. We have computers that everyone uses. We've had classes in the past, kind of hit or miss. We haven't had any for a little bit. We just try to make sure that we have also staff available to help someone who needs a little more time, or needs a little more support than just, you know, the average. And we can't always do that, but that is kind of our goal.
And I hear you on the classes. We had classes, like they work out in the community, like what Megan's doing, because we have an audience through the partnership. You know, we have people show up, but when we tried in the past to do classes at our branch locations, you know, we put all this work into it and nobody comes. And then even, you know, over time we get so many requests for classes, but still, I don't know if we're just not finding the right time, the right day or just what it is, but we've always had a really hard time getting people to show up to those classes. And then what about you, Kinsley, in Johnson County?
I echo everything about tech classes. People think they want tech classes, and then I think what people really want is help when they need it. And like Jennifer was saying, that is what we're trying to do. Always have someone dedicated to the computer area in our branches so that they can help people at their point of need when they are trying to submit that resume or, you know, figure out their passwords, all of those things, because those things can't wait for a class on Tuesday afternoon, right? They want it right then and there. So we have stopped our classes as such. We are in the middle of a restructuring internally, and so a lot of things have been on pause. But I think we are just on the cusp of being very well equipped to bring back our we call it What the Tech, and you can bring any tech question you have, and you can reserve a 30-minute session. And when you're signing up, usually by phone, because oftentimes these are our citizens who aren't comfortable making a reservation online. And so we get a lot of walk-ins or phone calls for signups. And we just do a quick little interview about what they're wanting to learn that day so that whoever's scheduled can be prepared, you know, maybe study up if they need to and help that person one-on-one. So again, public computers, we have laptop lending within 2 of our buildings because we are seeing an increased usage of our Wi-Fi and people wanting to move around and sit in a comfy chair, you know, and so they can check out laptops and use them inside 2 of our locations. Our internet access and what we find in some of our smaller, more rural locations where we aren't open as many hours, our internet stays on and it reaches out into the parking lots. And so that is used often in those communities. People know we're closed. We don't care if they sit in the parking lot and use their devices. We'd rather them do that than them not have connection. I think I mimic everything Ashley was saying about media. How do we, you know, make the cost of streaming affordable, if not free, for everyone? And so that's something the library can do. And then also the makerspace. So a lot of times you think of the makerspace as the end product of what you do on the 3D printer and all of those things, which in and of itself is technology. But the programming and the coding and the programs of open source software people are learning to use in the makerspace, being able to provide that free of charge is amazing because it really is cost prohibitive. We rely on things like Udemy. Formerly, we use lynda.com. So databases for learning. So when people at least express that need to learn, we can get them set up in the library or at home on those types of databases.
And I think a lot of us, each of us have actually addressed my next question already in talking about classes and costs, you know, costs for some of the resources we're providing. But I wanted to explore just a little bit more of the challenges that we're all facing in addressing the digital divide. I know, you know, at the Kansas City Public Library, we've been able to add a lot of new resources, especially with, you know, the funding that has come down as a result of the pandemic. But still just basic things like patrons having a phone to be able to open up their email account and verify, you know, that 2-factor authentication it's so annoying, but obviously it's so important, you know, so patrons that are either lose their phone, you know, just things like that. And of course, we talked a little bit about the classes. And I mean, you really hit the nail on the head with people say that they want classes, but they're not coming in because they need help right now. And a lot of times at some of our locations, it seems like those issues are more, it's almost like crisis mode, you know, like they're in crisis mode. They need help right now with their issue and they can't come back next, like you said, Tuesday for a class on this topic. And I think, you know, one of our biggest challenges is just even with the wonderful digital core program is just the staff capacity and the availability and being available when our patrons come in to get that help is probably our biggest challenge. We only have 10 digital core members. I mean, we've actually gotten a few extra with this new grant cycle. But still, that's 10 individuals doing approximately 20 hours a week. The library is open a lot more hours than that. And even though we do have these funding opportunities coming through, asking for staff through a grant, then I start worrying about sustainability and what's going to happen when that grant funding is over, that grant period is over. So I think for us, the biggest challenge remains, and maybe hopefully not always will be, staff capacity and availability. So with that, I just wonder about any other challenges that your library systems are facing in addressing these issues.
I can jump in. Definitely, everything you just said, it's people. You have to have the resources, and it's really tough. And also, I will mimic the grant funded positions are hard because they're temporary, they're not sustainable, and we try very hard not to have grant funded positions at Johnson County. Our makerspace, for instance, is the operations of our makerspace is almost fully grant funded, but the people are not. And that's the part where we've made a commitment of like, if we don't get this grant funding, we know we can and have a plan to sustain it. And it starts with the people. So that's really important to us. For the new restructuring that I talked about, the goal of that is to be out in the community more. Our outreach has been super limited since the pandemic. We just have not gotten back into our community. And so that is our next step, is to make those connections. It's great to hear what Megan's doing, because that I think is the dream, is go meet people where they are. If they can't travel to the library, or if they, if their devices don't move, like, how do you get to them and help them with those questions? Because I think that's how we gain library users. If they aren't already library users, then we can teach them so much more than only what they need to do on their device at that point in time.
I'll jump in next. I think one of our biggest, besides funding, because we don't have anybody to look for grants, we just don't have the staff capacity to have grants, and the staff doesn't have time to go find those grants. So that's one of our biggest things, is trying to get the funding and find things. We had a grant funded hotspot program last year, and what we found with them was we had almost a 70% loss rate. Money wise, we can't afford to kind of sustain that kind of loss. And the ones that were coming back missing parts, damaged. So there was even more loss there. So that's one of our biggest things. The other thing we have is a language barrier. Our library is unique as we're part of the school district. So our board is the school board. Kansas City, USD 500, the top 3 languages outside of English are Spanish, Swahili, and Burmese. Finding staff that speaks those languages makes it really hard to really get that language barrier broached. So that's probably our biggest thing. We also have a fairly large transient population that aren't always here. So trying to get them the help they need is not always easy, because they can be here one day and gone the next.
Yes, we thank you for bringing those up. Those are very, very huge challenges for our libraries as well. The languages are, yeah, it's next to impossible to find staff, volunteers who speak these languages. We've spent money on translation services to provide printed materials just to inform new patrons, especially about what they can unlock with their library card, which has been wonderful. But I am concerned that, we've provided this resource, but then if they come into the library, then what? Like nobody speaks these languages, so we can introduce you to your library. But then if you come in and try to actually engage with us, the language barrier is definitely an issue. And then of course the transient population too, we definitely struggle with that, especially at our downtown location. Joe Robertson, I see you have your hand up. Go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I want to go back to some of the topic you all were just talking about. I'm with Link, and when we work in schools and with families, and one of the things we find ourselves doing a lot, our site coordinators, is helping people parents when they have technical things like that. And then the idea keeps coming up, or we talk about it. We've talked with Digital Drive about it. We've talked to other people about it sometimes. We've done some things where the idea of at a school, after school, having a class for parents to help them with digital literacy. And so I have the same, I was kind of cautioned by your experience that, people want help when they need it. When you try to schedule a class or something like that, maybe they don't come. I don't know, we would offer pizza and other stuff like that. But if you could just, taking your experience that you've had with that, just any insight you might have for someone trying to do it remotely or like that at a community site.
So I have definitely used food to entice people to come into events in the past, even if it's just, a box of snacks. We've even, through grant funding in the very beginning of my work here at the library, we were even offering devices, for a certain number of hours to participate in our classes. If you had perfect attendance throughout the series of our classes, we awarded people with tablets and things like that. But I think our most successful way has just, kind of the way that Megan's doing it is just going out and trying to meet people where they are. But yeah, it's been a challenge.
Can I jump in here? As you guys know, I handle the marketing for Essential Family. And again, I'm not selling anything right now. I just want to share this with you. Our events are always packed. And we would love to partner with the library, as we have, Wendy. You started us, right? We started with Wendy months ago. They're always packed. And that's not only because we offer the device, but Terry's background has identified, and she knows all the questions to ask to see what do you really need to stabilize, your family. And that's why these folks come. The laptop is the carrot, if you will, but they start telling all their friends because, again, these programs she's built that helps them stabilize. Because what I'm hearing here is even transient language barrier and all that, the families, they're all alike when it comes down to their basic essential needs. And she knows how to do that stuff. I don't. I just built stuff for her. But I just want to just throw that out. We just hope and we look forward to working with the library to partner to help these families. That's it. Tom, you want to say anything about that? Because I know he's got ideas too. So,
well, yeah, thanks, Ken. And you guys have brought up some real challenging and very realistic challenges with respect to funding. And like you said, the capacity to seek out grants and the knowledge that money is transient. And it's being talked about at these policy levels, on a nationwide basis. But there's a couple things. Number one, all these programs are designed for a minimum of 2 years and possibly for as long as 5 or 6 years worth of continuous funding for extra staff capacity, for extra training capacity, with the idea that there would be some ways to start building those functions into your regular operating budget. Again, I know that might sound unrealistic, but you've got local, private, as well as public funders. I know Health Forward Foundation has a couple of people on this call. They have been very, very interested in understanding where and how federal dollars can be used to kickstart your obvious need for more resources, but at the same time to integrate it into things that, locally will help you sustain funding through, local philanthropic partners as well. It's just too big of an opportunity right now to allow your challenges with grants and other type of funding to prevent you from going after what's available right now. It's monumental. And then going back to Ken's point, another way that's being talked about to help libraries feel more comfortable going after this funding is by the way you think about and embrace partnerships. Because most often the partners themselves, whether it's direct service providing group like Essential Families or hospitals or healthcare clinics. I know a couple of you have talked about the needs to provide assistance for telehealth appointments and things like that. Those partnerships are also getting attention, and the state capacity money is designed to provide funds not just for the library but for the partners. And the last thing I'll say, and Wendy will help me with this, Cindy Hull, the ALA president, she gave such a great address yesterday, and I have asked her to share her speech so that libraries can actually see and be more comfortable with the kind of narrative that you can use in grant applications, and also to share that with organizations that partner with libraries, because she just really struck on some great points that I know are supported by the NTIA with respect to how necessary it is for libraries right now to take advantage of these federal dollars, so that over the course of the next 5 or 6 years, through other local partnerships, you can find ways to build those extra staff positions into your normal, regular operating budget. I know it sounds unrealistic based on some of the obvious examples you guys have been sharing, but we're really getting a lot of push from these funding organizations for libraries to go after this money now and to build ways over time to make those expenses sustainable. So that's not so much a plea, but I'm just sharing with you what I'm hearing. And then, to Ken's point, it's reinforced by partners who also need to work with the libraries because of just the way your populations and your patrons are always there looking for help. So.
Yeah. Hey, Wendy, real quick here, just to tag on that real quick. So Essential Families, we have 5 grant writers on our staff. We've written all of our grants. We had people call us that wanted us to hire them to write grants, but Terry has written grants for not Health Forward, but Children's Services Fund, not Children's Services Fund, I'm back up, Family Conservancy. That's what she did for 24 years. And I never wrote grants where I came from, but I wrote RFPs, RFIs, and RFQs all the time. And we have 2 other people on our staff that write. So you guys need some help writing grants. We can help you. Not a problem. Not a problem. We can do it.
I have a question for the group. And I really appreciate hearing from Tom and Ken, and all the cheers for Cindy. She's amazing. My question is, when you do have the programs that are successful, when you do bring in the food, our struggle has sometimes been finding the right time of day, because many people, especially from a lower economic status, are working multiple jobs, and transportation is an issue. And what about childcare? So childcare is another challenge we've had with these programs. Also, our English language learner programs. How do you provide the right mix of all of those needs to make it successful for their whole family?
That's a great question. I don't have the answer at all, but that does remind me though about the importance of not only community partnerships, but partnerships within our own library system. We have grown, especially since the pandemic. We have more staff, and we are very fortunate to have specialists. We have a team of community resource specialists. And so, being able to leverage their expertise in some of these, with some of these challenges. For example, we have an outreach team whose, sole work is focused on working with the transient populations and those experiencing houselessness. And so, even through partnering within our, we're able to get connected sometimes to those hard to reach populations. And then, we have some of our other specialists include job readiness and job searching. We have a lady that helps people with resume building and interview practicing and things like that, and small business help, health and wellness, and so again, I'm not necessarily answering your question because I wish I had the answer, but I do think that there is potential for libraries to partner more with agencies out in the community to kind of work together, especially with things like food insecurity, childcare, transportation. Even though the bus system is still free, it doesn't necessarily make it easy to get to places when you need to. And so, what are those long-term answers? I don't know, but they are certainly challenges I trust that we're all facing. Any more questions or comments? Yeah, go.
Yeah, Wendy, I would love to join and comment something I was thinking. So hi, Megan here. Just had the camera off, but one thing that I think is important to consider, especially like Wendy said, the tech access team is just her, myself, and my coworker Andrew. So although we're in a big library branch and in a big system, our team itself is really small. So I think like as trite as it sounds, like the best way to start the programming is just to start where you can. I know when I started, I was in a grant funded position on the team, and we were doing the work and putting in the effort, and then it ended up being that the position became full-time. So I really lucked out in this scenario. But I just started by reaching out to partner agencies, asking if they were interested in technology classes. And it just came from starting those conversations. So I think, like Wendy said, reaching out to agencies, asking if there's interest, if you can potentially have the partner agency like provide the space and a staff member goes there, or provide the space in the library for patrons to come in. It is about accepting your limits and knowing like the only way to start is to start, and then kind of seeing where things go and develop from there.
That is a great point. I also started as a grant funded position and was able to secure my permanent full-time status by demonstrating the need for the work that we're doing. So that's a good point. Just jump in, dive in, do what you can.
Great examples, both of you guys. It's sometimes scary to do that, but that's just that is honestly how these things wind up becoming sustainable. Is you just kind of have to have that faith, and you dive in, and the passion, the enthusiasm turns into impact and results. And it's not, a lot of times the money goes away, the position goes away, but in today's day and age, right now, we've never had such a spotlight on this kind of work. And so, let's just say it's maybe less risky to go after those things now, knowing that there's a greater likelihood they're going to continue to find ways to be supported long term.
Yeah, I like to say all you do is have to just copy Wendy. She knows exactly how to do it. Just copy Wendy. She's very good at what she does. She's very good. That's my opinion. So I'll be quiet.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to say that recently KCPBS, I believe, and NPR, KCUR, they've done stories for Hispanic Heritage Month on Irene Reese, who was the librarian on the West Side. I was raised on the West Side.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way the approach that the library system had at the time, where they purposely hired someone from the community who spoke their language, who knew the culture, and I appreciate all of the hard work and and efforts that you all are putting into ensuring that communities of color that do not speak English are utilizing the services. But I think I'm just going to be very honest, they're not going to respond if they don't see the staff reflecting themselves. So I think that will change if there's a concerted effort to ensure that the library systems hire, that they attract bilingual individuals from the community. There is a way. I know it's been done. The library system at KCMO Public Library did a great job when I was a kid with hiring Irene Reese. I encourage you all to listen to her life story. She really changed the lives of many people on the West Side in Kansas City.
Thank you very much for that. And it's definitely something I know that our hiring staff is paying more attention to and looking at, because like we've been talking about, it's required. We just, to be able to have the impact on people's lives that we're trying to accomplish, like it's a requirement. My last question is just great segue of talking about challenges and partnerships and filling the gap so that we can address things as a community. I would like to ask our panelists, what should an agency do if they want to partner with your library? And of course, we all have varying levels of what we can offer and when and where. But honestly, the library is the convening anchor institution in our communities, and it's where people go. We've been around for centuries globally, and I think we're probably not going to go anywhere regardless of the politics. Public libraries are always going to be a place for people to go for information and resources. So I just wanted to ask our panelists to close up our discussion today. I see Megan already put into the chat to, of course, reach out to us, and I'll put our email. We have, of course, 2 emails, techaccess@kclibrary.org. And then, of course, the one that you received your calendar invitation and agenda from, the digital inclusion@kclibrary.org. Those are 2 great ways to get a hold of us. And we have a lot to offer both to patrons directly and, of course, community partners. We're always game for partnering with new agencies. So what can an agency or individual do if they would like to partner with your library?
If they wanted to partner with North Kansas City, they would just reach out to me. I'll put my email into the chat. And then I might not be the person who does it, but I would navigate within our little system.
For us, it'd be reaching out to either the assistant director or any of the branch managers, and they'd be able to direct you to the correct person to help. And I can put our assistant director's email in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Same for us. You can reach out to me. You can reach out on our Contact Us page. And we have a new form for outreach requests on our website. It's so new, I don't know where to find it yet. But if you find it, that's always a way to get in touch with. It doesn't have to be only us coming to you. It can be the start of a partnership. It's just another connection point.
Wonderful. Thank you all very, very much for being here today. Does anyone have any final comments or questions for our panelists before we move on to community announcements?
I'll just raise my hand and say that, yeah, reaching out to the libraries is easy and it's critical. We knew that the libraries loaned computers, but it was for 3 weeks. And Wendy and I were talking, and it was like, well, our students really need to have a computer for our whole semester. And they make a huge effort every semester to come to our location at both locations at Literacy KC and make laptops, or Chromebooks rather, available to our students who are trying to get their high school diploma, trying to learn English, whatever it is. They can get a computer for the entire semester and then turn it back into us and then check another one out the next semester. It has been life-changing for many of our students. Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, it's been our pleasure. It's been a great program and a great partnership. Right. Anyone else? Anything else? Right. Well, thank you once again to all of our panelists today. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and thank you also to everyone else who's chimed in and been here, participate. With that, we can go ahead and move on to our last agenda item, which is community announcements. I'd like to just open up the floor and see if anyone has any, events coming up or special announcements or accomplishments you'd like to share. It's an open floor. So anybody?
Yes. Hello, this is Terry with Essential Families, founder and CEO. I just like to say I appreciate this conversation because it was good to hear what the libraries are experiencing and what is needed. And I just would like to share here at Essential Families, it is our passion to have navigators, digital navigators that are reflective of the community that we serve. And I say that because we have just hired our new digital navigator director, and he speaks 4 languages. Swahili is one of them. I heard someone say they have some clients that speak Swahili. But he in turn is going to help us find other navigators in that language barrier population that we can potentially partner with the libraries to help serve the masses. So Essential Families, we already have 51 digital navigators. I have about 10 of them that speak Spanish. I have 119 individuals on our wait list to become digital navigators, again, with the goal of being representative of all the cultures and languages that are here in the greater Kansas City area. So I just wanted to put that out there. I appreciate the librarians of putting their email contacts in the chat because we will be reaching out to you all. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Terry. That's very exciting to hear. I'm sure you'll be getting some emails.
Yes, and just so you know, we're meeting at the Northeast Library, Wendy, next Friday with our new director. So we still use the library, as meeting places. So yes.
My dad used to say, be careful not to wear out your welcome. But so we don't want to welcome. We have worn out the library, but you guys have always welcomed us and supported us. So we just want to say publicly, thank you, because we could not have done what we've done without the library at all. We could not have done it. So
thank you. That's why we're here. Any other announcements or questions?
Yeah, Ike with Vineyard, and we are having a health fair Saturday, October the 5th.
Okay.
You can get a COVID shot and complete a survey and get $40 for both of it.
Oh, wow. That's just tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah. And October the 12th, we're going to have a yard sale here at Vineyard.
I'll be there.
And tomorrow is 11 to 4. And next Saturday, October the 12th, is from 9 to 2.
Okay. And is that stuff up on your Facebook page or your website, Ike, or do you have a flyer you can send me?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and do that, and I'll try to get it out to everyone.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Ike is also a great partner with the Tech Access Program at the library. And that Vineyard Neighborhood Association is a real role model for a local neighborhood association that's really taken advantage of partnering with available community resources. So Ike, I'm glad you spoke up. We need more Ikes. Yeah. But really it's a showcase for how local, more grassroots level organizations can benefit from these extra resources available by partnering with their libraries and their other anchor institutions. So that's awesome. And then I wanted to give a shout out to the comment Leah posted in the chat before anybody leaves this meeting, because next week is Digital Inclusion Week. I mean, you can Google it. There's all kinds of things you can participate in. I know Kansas City Digital Drive has a number of things already scheduled that are in the link that Leah sent, but even just nationwide, you can get on the NDIA's website, which is netinclusion.org. I don't know, Wendy, if you might be able to post that in the chat. And there's all kinds. Oh, there you go. Thanks, Leah. There's lots of things that you can do to participate and just show your camaraderie, I guess, for all this work that we do. And as I said, particularly within and among libraries and library branches, truly are anchors for doing this work. So kudos to you guys for all you do and for showing up and sharing some of your thoughts and challenges with us today. It's pretty awesome.
Well, thank you very much for the comment. And I wish there was more Toms. because, because really, it has really been a blessing for us to have become a part of this.
Yes, Tom has a lot of energy.
Well, I can't end this meeting without saying go Royals. Oh. We haven't had this situation for 10 years now.
Exactly,
so
at least 10 years.
And when have we gone into a weekend with at least as much excitement for a Royals game as there is for a Chiefs game? So at any rate, I appreciate you guys putting up with me, but we do love our Royals and our Chiefs. So
yeah. All right. Well, any other announcements going once, twice?
Thanks for all you did, Wendy. Great job. Really great meeting.
Thank you. Thank you once again to all of our panelists again for joining us too. And you get a few minutes back on this beautiful Friday. And have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you so much.
Great job, Wendy. Great job.
Yeah.